The first free practice session of MotoGP 2025 is just 3 weeks away, and after 3 days of testing here in Sepang, all of our pre-season questions are now starting to have some answers. A warm welcome to you from the Sepang International Circuit. This is After the Flag, and the Sepang test has just half an hour left to run. A warm welcome to you from the Sepang International Circuit. Lewis Sotheby and Jack Appleyard with you once again. And as mentioned, Jack, a lot of our questions are starting to be answered, but how exciting is it to see 5 manufacturers inside the top 7 and the Japanese manufacturers looking like they're climbing off the canvas?
Sounds the klaxon. I'm going to roll it out for 2025. MotoGP looks closer than ever this year. It's great to be able to see all of the manufacturers up there, but it certainly does look like it. We're going to touch on it in a second, but Yamaha in particular are the one manufacturer that you feel we can get excited about. They've taken a step. It looks as though they're ready to enter the fight this year, and there are a lot of Fabio Quartararo fans out there, a lot of them that are getting quite excited after today's results.
Yeah, you can already see the standings as they currently sit, left-hand side of your screens. Whether anything changes or not in the final 30 minutes, whether someone's going to go for a Hollywood finish to this Sepang test, we will have to wait and see. Waiting for us once again, as always, in Barcelona, Kiko Giles and Elliot York, who are going to take a closer look on the action we've seen over the course of the last 3 days, in particular today. Guys, what do we have in store?
Good to see you guys. Sound the klaxon. MotoGP 25, can it get any closer? I mean, yesterday we already saw how close it was right at the top of the time screens. We had all 5 manufacturers in the 157s. Today, 12 riders covered by less than a second. Alongside me, Kiko Giles, Elliot York. I'm always in good company. El, what can we expect on day 3?
Yeah, not sure about that last comment, mate. But yeah, really excited to get stuck into the lap times today. We're going to be comparing some sprint sims, some time attack sims as well. Yeah, we just got a lot to get stuck into, so I'm really excited. Interesting lap times. We're going to analyse a lot of the factories, well, most of the factories, the rookies as well. Marc Marquez's sprint sim, that's an interesting one as well. So yeah, lots to get stuck into today, so I'm excited for it.
Got a bit of tech talk coming up as well later. You have to stay tuned for that. But I think right now we're going to be heading back to Malaysia. That'll give me some time to get a new co-presenter after his swipe across the face. Lewis, Jack, back to you guys.
Yeah, the first big rivalry of 2025 is taking place back at HQ between Giles and York. More on that as we get through the show. Before we go anywhere, let's bring you an update, though, on the reigning world champion, Jorge Martin, who, of course, began this test in disastrous fashion from his point of view, in highly dramatic fashion. From our point of view, he had those 2 crashes on the first morning of this Sepang test, the second, of course, which brought his test to an end. We have some footage to bring you of Jorge Martin back in Europe. He flew there over the course of the last 24 hours or so, and he's set to undergo some surgery. Jorge Martin, of course, having suffered those fractures to his hand, in addition to the fracture in his foot. And really, Jack, it's the fractures in his hand, which I think are causing the bigger problem.
Yeah, 3 broken fingers, a broken toe. You can see Dr. Angel Charter there meeting Jorge Martin at the front of the Jesus Hospital in Barcelona. And I believe, back of shot, that is the famous Dr. Mia, who has operated on more MotoGP riders than I care to think. This, of course, the crash that has grabbed headlines around the world. A vicious, horrific crash for the world champion on only lap 14 of his defence of the 2024 crown. Still awaiting news on whether we will be able to see Jorge Martin jump back aboard the RSGP at the Buriram test in just a few days' time. But I have to say, there's a feeling that I'm left wanting more as a result of this Sepang test now that we're only 20 minutes away from the checkered flag flying. Marco Bezzecchi, you can see there, 8th with a 1:57.3. I think there's a lot of people at home in the media centre, up and down pit lane, thinking, oh, I'd love to have seen what Jorge would have been able to do in time attack mode. Of course, he is the undisputed king of qualifying. That would have been some sight to behold.
And king of the sprints, of course. You could argue that it was the sprint supremacy which really set the bedrock of his World Championship success last season. Let's talk about the story of the test post-Martin's crash, which I guess has been Yamaha. There have been some other stories bubbling under the surface today, which Kiko and Elliot are going to dive into. But we've been trying to keep our expectations and our hopes and excitement under control over the last 2.5 days about Yamaha. But I don't think we can hold it any longer, can we? Fabio Quartararo went out this morning, within the first half an hour or so, was already knocking on the door of the 156s. As we stand here now, a 156.724 for the 2021 world champion. Light years ahead of anything we've seen from Yamaha here before.
Yeah, incredible stuff from Yamaha. And yes, there's going to be a lot of people at home that say they've had 3 days in the shakedown to be able to get a good run up towards this test. Yes, testing conditions are always very different to a Grand Prix weekend, but one of Yamaha's biggest problems over the last couple of years has been getting the most out of a soft rear tyre, has been performing in qualifying over just one lap. We came into this test with Yamaha being the slowest of the 5 manufacturers when we looked at their best ever laps around the Sepang International Circuit. Some have improved by a tenth and a bit, some 10th and a bit slower than what we've seen previously. Yamaha, 0.8 of a second quicker than they've ever gone before. The previous best, a 57.5, has been smashed out of the park by Fabio Quartararo today. That 56.7 now puts them as the second fastest factory to have ever lapped around Sepang. That right there tells the story. Yamaha, it's not a question of when they're going to arrive. I think we can safely say they're there. They're ready to fight. Maybe not for a world championship, because as we'll look later on, still Ducati and that dream team of Bagnaia and Marquez have got a little bit over everyone else when we go into race trim. But over one lap, they're ready to compete now, and that is going to give them such an opportunity, certainly at the start of the year, because we know Fabio Quartararo is one of the best out there. He's a world champion in MotoGP for a reason, and if he can give himself half a chance and be on those front 2 or 3 rows of the grid, that's all he needs, a chance, and he'll take it and run with it.
Well, this is it, isn't it? Because we've seen in the past that Yamaha haven't had so much of a problem over race trim. The bedrock of their struggles really has been the ability to turn those Michelins on, get a qualifying lap on the board and get Fabio Quartararo up the grid. Give me a grid position that I can work with, is what Fabio Quartararo has been asking over the years. And when he spoke over there, we're going to hear from him shortly. I interviewed him about half an hour ago, but he also spoke to the assembled journalist here in the media centre, and he was asked what kind of expectations he can have for the first Grand Prix this season. He said, first of all, they've got a phrase in the Yamaha box, which is no expectations. He says Diego Gubellini, his crew chief, has actually got a T-shirt made with Fabio's face on it, and it says no expectations along the front. But he did say, I can't answer now whether I'm going to be able to fight for top 7, for top 5, or whether I can fight for the podium. But the fact that those were the parameters he was talking within clearly tells you that Fabio Quartararo is already thinking in his own head higher than he was achieving last year.
Look, of course, let's get to Buriram and see if these lap times are able to translate to a different circuit with different characteristics. I'm sure Yamaha are desperately hoping that to be the case. And yes, as well, this Sepang circuit is a venue where Fabio has had good success out the years. I remember in particular when we were looking up the road at Pecco Bagnaia and Enea Bastianini dueling it out for victory in 2022, was it? Even that year, at the back end of last year, as Fabio's results started to fall away, here was where he pulled out, arguably one of his best performances of the season. So he does like this circuit. But there's definitely reason to be optimistic, because as we were saying yesterday, as we've been saying throughout the entirety of this test, it's not just Fabio that's able to piece it together. Of course, none of the other Yamaha riders are able to get into the 56s, but only 4 people full stop have been able to get into the 56s today. But Alex Rins, Miguel Oliveira, Jack Miller have all been quietly impressive as well.
Well, as mentioned, around about half an hour or so ago, Fabio Quartararo came into our studio and into the broadcaster set to give the world his opinions. So let's hear from that now. I caught up with him a short time ago. Well, issues there with the interview of Fabio Quartararo. We'll hope to bring you that again very, very shortly, but it does just underline the feel-good factor around Yamaha at the moment. Even though you couldn't hear Fabio Quartararo there, you could certainly see it in his face that there was a smile on it. And as mentioned, we haven't really seen that smile on Fabio Quartararo's face so far, because, as mentioned, he would quite frequently last year find himself outside of the top 12 and being knocked out in qualifying 1, which gave him that problem where he couldn't really fight for top positions in the race because the Yamaha wasn't really in a position to overtake. We believe we fixed those little gremlins now, and you can now not only see Fabio Quartararo, but you can hear him. In fact, before we do that, let's head to Barcelona and get some extra thoughts. Kiko Giles and Elliot York are standing by. Kiko, let's throw it over to you.
Fabio Quartararo in such good form, he's obviously lost for words. We'll pick that up a little bit later on, but there was one rider that we didn't quite have time to touch on yesterday. Franco Morbidelli. How good is it to see Franco Morbidelli back to some form we know he's capable of? He topped yesterday's times. Quicker than his qualifying time. He was right on it in terms of his one-lap pace on old rubber. That's important, and we've got more sprint sim stuff coming up with that later. But Franco Morbidelli looking like Frankie of old.
The Portimao crash at the start of last year when he was testing a superbike over in Portugal was a super scary one and sort of ruined his first half, the 6 months of last year. He was on the, obviously, GP24 last year, so this year it's a bike he knows pretty much inside out. But as he said yesterday, he's been able to test some settings and some direction changes that he didn't have a chance to do or get used to in 2024. So that's obviously what he's doing in 2025, and you can see it's working wonders for Franco Morbidelli, which is great to see. We like Frankie. He's obviously runner-up in MotoGP, a MotoGP race winner too, so really, really nice to see Franco Morbidelli doing well in the test. It's of course only a test at this moment in time, but it's positive signs for Morbidelli on a bike he knows, admittedly, like the back of his hand.
Of course, he's flying the flag for VR46. If you're just joining us here for After the Flag, no Fabio Di Gian Antonio, because he was missing from day one after a crash, of all things, pulling a wheelie. Think we're ready to go back? Oh no, here we are. We have got a question. How is the feeling with the bike and the team? I presume that's about Franco Morbidelli. I think we've got some lap times coming up as well, just to be a little bit more analytical. But before we discuss all of that, I think we've got the Franco Morbidelli interview, El. So hold that thought, whatever it was. Frankie Morbidelli, how is the feeling with the bike? Looks like we're going to have to wait a little while for that, so no problem. Maybe he is likewise lost for words like Fabio Quartararo. But Frankie Morbidelli on form in Sepang.
Exactly that. We're going to look at, I've got it noted down here, instead of trying to memorise it and forgetting, obviously, the sprint sim. Hopefully we get some lap times up here as well. But Franco Morbidelli earlier on today did 11 laps. This isn't the sprint sim, so I'll just touch on that this time. Best time 159.2, slowest 201.6 on lap 13 of his race sim, so not a full race distance, but over
enough
half.
To get an idea.
Low 159s, 6 of them. If we compare that to what Pecco Bagnaia did, the race winner, of course, at the 2024 Malaysian GP, Pecco did low 159s 5 times, so Morbidelli is one more of those, and his best time was a 59.1, so slightly quicker than Morbidelli's fastest time, but he's in the ballpark of what Pecco was able to do in the race last year, a few months ago. Now, obviously, you've got to take into account the conditions of the race, the battle, of course, between Pecco and Martin, which was obviously slowed both riders up. It was a fantastic battle, but good for Morbidelli to see that, to get a race sim under his belt and to be within the ballpark of his fellow Italian.
These are the times that we're talking about. The sprint sim stuff's all well and good, but of course, let's look at the raw pace. Last year, 2024 Sepang qualifying at 57.2. Now, I would like to just say quickly, that's very impressive because Frankie Morbidelli, if you did not remember, actually missed the Sepang test last year. He was injured from a crash taking part in the World Superbike test at Portimao on a street Banagale V4R. So that's really actually very, very impressive to see Frankie Morbidelli already on that pace inside Q2. Now, if you look at Sepang test day 2, this was yesterday, this is the test day he topped, 57.5. So again, in that ballpark and much faster than the other riders. Today, fingers crossed, please don't go out and do a lap in the next 2 minutes. Frankie Morbidelli, 56.948. So only 4 riders in the 156 bracket. Frankie Morbidelli is one of them. So his race sim stuff's good, but his pace is really good too. And you've got to have both.
Exactly. Race sim good, qualifying spec good. This put him 4th on the grid in the Malaysian GP last year. Obviously, this is quicker. It wouldn't have put him on pole because the lap time's 156.3 for Pecco was an almighty lap. But good for Franco to get into the 156s while doing a qualifying sim. So good in race trim, good in qualifying trim. So signs are all positive for Franco Morbidelli so far. Let's see, though, how he goes in Buriram.
I think we're going to get ready to head back to Malaysia with more on-site coverage. Lewis, are you ready and waiting? Hopefully, yes. I think from all of us here in Barcelona, we say relax. Over to you.
Thank you very much, guys. And to talk to us, and I guess in a pretty relaxed mood, is the Yamaha Motor Racing Director, Paolo Pavesio. Thanks for joining us once again. We've already been speaking about Fabio Quartararo and the test he's had so far. And from a Yamaha point of view, overall, sum up how pleased you are with it.
We are happy, of course. We know it's the first step of a journey. But when we compare, first of all, with ourselves, we have clearly seen improvement compared to last year race and even more on last year testing, which has helped us to close the gap. We have said very clearly we have a job to do, which is closing the gap from the top. We know it's a journey. We have brought things which have been working, things which we know we need to go back and work again on them before we propose again. But overall, it's been a very positive 6 days, because for us it's been 6 days, of course. I have to say it's been also a very positive break-in with Pramac, because there is a whole new structure which is working close to the, let's say, Monster team, and there is also a whole new structure in the back, which is supporting the two teams. So I think overall for us it's been very productive.
If you could pinpoint one area on the bike that has improved, what would you look at specifically? Of course, we saw Fabio Quartararo today. One of his issues, I guess, last season or last couple of seasons, was being able to put in that time attack qualifying lap. That would appear to have improved. But is the one area on the bike that you look at which you see as taken the biggest step forward?
Yeah, it's pretty evident from the numbers that the time attack has been improved. This was one of the issues last year, but I would say also talking with the riders, we have done multiple things which they have all contributed to help to close this gap. Maybe the most evident is the time attack, because this is what you see at the end. You see a ranking, but this is not a qualifying session, this is not a race. We are pretty happy about the consistency, and we are pretty happy about the way over those days we have put the pieces together.
You mentioned the collaboration with Pramac. Of course, we've been speaking about that a lot in the run-up to this test, about how big a difference that's going to make to Yamaha. And now that we've seen it in practice over 3 days, or I guess more than that with the shakedown, just how big a difference is it making, and just how much is it helping you guys collectively?
Yeah, for sure. We are not discovering it, we are experiencing for the first time. The target was very clear, was to have a second factory team, and we got, I think, the best factory team, which was second factory team which was available out there. It has clearly positive impact on the data, but also it will help when we go home and we will start analyze and we keep developing. But for me, it was also interesting to see the dynamics between the rider, because every session, every day, every lunch, every dinner, somebody has done something better, or somebody maybe has a frustration area or adapt. So the dynamics also with the rider, I clearly felt is pushing all of them up and not down, of course. And this is also very interesting from a sport management point of view.
And just finally, we heard from Fabio Quartararo earlier on, and he spoke about the phrase that's been going around the Yamaha box a lot, which is no expectations. We believe he's got a T-shirt with his face on it. How important is it for Yamaha at this stage to try and keep your feet on the ground and keep working? Because I guess from your point of view, the job isn't done yet.
Yeah, we're definitely going to keep the same T-shirt for a while. We are happy about, when you see the numbers, and we are happy about the way it went, but we know this is just the first brick on a new house we are building. So we need to really remain humble. We need to understand that we want to go back to the top. This is a step, and I think it's important because it gives energy and positivity. And when you put all the effort we've been putting over this winter time, it's important to be rewarded. I think also for all the people which have been working at home, for the engineers, to give motivation to the rider and to the team. But it's just the first step, so definitely no expectation. T-shirt will stay.
Well, there's a lot of buzz still in MotoGP about your progress, so best of luck for the upcoming Buriram test, and we look forward to talking to you from there.
Thank you. We'll see each other again. Ciao.
Paolo Pavesio joining us live on After the Flag. Let's head straight down to pit lane and get some more reaction from the grounds. Jack Appleyard is standing by in pit lane. Jack, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Lewis. Outside the factory KTM box, because we speak about the improvement that Yamaha have been able to make in this test, that whopping 0.8 of a second quicker than they've ever been before. Our next best improvers are down here at KTM, a 10.5 quicker than they've ever managed around Sepang, courtesy of Pedro Acosta this morning. Akiayo, new team boss, down here joins us after, I imagine, what has been quite a busy 3 days, Aki. We can see Pedro in the back of shot here, wrapping up his test. Brad's still out there at the moment. Overall, how would you sum up the mood at the end of these 3 days?
As you say, really, of course, really busy days, and already last week we were with the racing team here to take care of our test riders. So actually has been quite busy 10 days here, but of course really productive as well. It's has been from the side to other side for testing many different items. So first of all, I have to say that our development people in the factory has been working really hard during the season, and of course we have the list has been really long and not even done yet, but of course really important. And I would say that next 2 days in Buriram will be at least so important as well, that it's a little bit more maybe finalizing and fine-tuning, let's say, the things, and then finally see a little bit where we are before the season starts.
One of the key items was the new rear seat unit, which caught everyone by surprise, and everyone was certainly interested by it. We've finished today with that being on all 4 bikes across both garages. Do you feel that is a direction found?
Yeah, we try to collect, of course, of all main items, information from all 4 riders. That's important, and as I said, that in some part the work continue in Buriram as well.
Let's look at the 2 different garages then. Firstly, here in front of the factory box, for both Brad and Pedro, did they finish satisfied that you've managed to touch enough on the deficiencies of last year's bike?
Of course, let's say that we share also the work a little bit in different way. Of course, we have 2 guys here who has experience with the bike, and then we have two guys, and they are also really important, the new guys, for this, that we really get, of course, the comparison and, let's say, feeling from the new guys which are coming from the other manufacturers. So that is really important part. But in other hand, we need their opinions also, and same time they need to get used of our material. So it's not easy in few days, but as I repeat already a few times, let's continue the finalize the season preparation next week in Buriram.
Just finally on Enea and Maverick, we can see neither of them at the moment, still time left, able to get into the 157s. They've both described just how unique KTM is as a motorcycle compared to what they've been used to. Does it take quite a specific riding style to be able to get the most out of this bike?
First of all, of course, our target this week is not the lap times. That it's much more important work at the moment than just to focus to make some lap time. And I would say that, of course, we need to give this chance to riders as well. But it's even more next week. But of course, all the bikes are different, and when they are both coming from other manufacturers, there is, let's say, already since beginning, very interesting comments about the positive things, and of course, very very important for us also to hear negative comments as well.
Thank you very much, Aki. We'll see you in Buriram.
Thanks a lot.
There we go. Great to be able to chat to Aki Ayer, who, of course, is embarking on his very first MotoGP season as a team boss. What have we got left? Around 6.5 minutes. So I just want to walk from KTM down to Ducati, just to change the topic ever so slightly, because I was hoping to be able to grab a word with Davide Tardozzi, but unfortunately, he is in amongst some pretty big decisions at this current moment. Pecco Bagnaia described yesterday as it being a 50-50 choice between the 2024 engine and the 2025 engine, in particular saying that the 2025 engine just doesn't offer the same kind of braking stability, the same kind of braking performance that he's been used to, and that's evident in his fast lap time today. A 156.500 is Bagnaia's best. Now, that is only 0.163 of a second away from what he was able to do when we were last here in Q2. However, when you compare that through sectors 1 and 4, it's very different altogether, because he's losing the thick end of 3/10 through that first and fourth split, which is all about hard braking, in particular into the penultimate corner and then into the first corner. And as you can see here, the guys are still working with 5 minutes to go. Marc Marquez has only just finished his run here. he was earlier, coming in on this bike on the left-hand side of the grid, and afterwards it resulted in quite the meeting of minds. 9 different Ducati engineers altogether. This man here in the back of shot, Davide Barana, who's the technical director, Gigi Delinia, of course, and Marco Rigamonti, the new crew chief for Marc Marquez. So the guys down here at Ducati working hard ahead of that massive decision with regards to which engine they choose. It's quite evident where the deficiencies are with that 2025 package. Let's see which direction they take. We're hoping to speak to Davide Tardozzi after 6 o'clock, once the checkered flag has been waved, to get an understanding of where Ducati go from here. But looking at the sprint times and the sprint simulations, these guys have still got it. That was still pretty quick.
Yeah, they still look like the team to beat, don't they? No question about that. Thanks very much, Jack. We'll be back with you a little bit later on, hopefully once Davide Tardozzi has emerged from the high importance meetings he's currently in. Well, a little bit earlier on in the show, we promised you an interview with Fabio Quartararo. We were able to see Fabio, but now I promise you we can hear him. Let's say now from the 2021 World Champion. I spoke to him a little bit earlier today. Fabio, you said yesterday you weren't sure if you would do a 56. You said that the red bikes would. Well, you got the 56. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's really happy. You know, it's the first time that I've reached the 56, so feeling happy. I think that today was a good day for us. The condition was really good, so we have to work, especially when the conditions are not so great, especially when the grip is low. That is the main goal that we have this season. But yeah, in general, it was a positive day, and hopefully in Buriram we will have the same feeling.
For the last 2 or 3 years, I guess one of the weaknesses of the Yamaha has been the ability to do that time attack lap. Is that a weakness you've now fixed?
Yeah, I've been working it in the winter also, especially not in a road bike, but on a off-road. I was trying to be fast on one lap and be straight away there, and I think that this was a good point, but especially the bike has improved in some area that helps me to be fast in one lap. But now we need to find, like I said, the grip on the pace to be able to have this couple of tenths without pushing like hell.
We know that you're super fit, but that's 5 days now you've done here in Sepang. How's the body?
Sore, but you know, this morning I've been cycling a little bit. This afternoon I will make a light run, but my body is great. Just, you know, mentally to be focused during all the lap times at this speed is more mentally tired than physically.
And just finally, I guess before you came to Malaysia, you must have had in your mind targets. You must have had an idea of what you wanted to see from the bike. Have your hopes been met?
To be honest, yes. I think that I was not too positive, but not too negative. And I think that was even a little bit more than I expect. But like I said, it's just the test. And I think that the reality will come when we will be in Buriram in the Friday afternoon and on the qualifying.
Thanks, Fabio. See you in Buriram.
Thank you. See you there.
Yeah, good to see Fabio Quartararo smiling again. We haven't seen much of that over the last couple of years, of course, having defended his World Championship right the way to the final race in 2022 before losing out to Pecco Bagnaia. He hasn't had a sniff of victory since. Is this the year when that finally changes? Well, let's round off the Yamaha story for you. We've covered them a lot in this first half an hour, but they have really made the most noticeable step forward at this test. First from Fabio Quartararo, now let's hear from his teammate Alex Rins.
Alex, today was a day for the time attack, was one of the things in the plan. If I'm not wrong, you improve the lap time that you did here in the qualifying months ago. So I think the feelings are good and you're happy.
Yeah, the feelings are quite okay. Today was more than today. All these 5 days riding here, including the shakedown, was quite positive for us. We tried many items, many things, and as you said, last day from 10 to 11, everybody was putting a time attack like a soft tire. We had in the plan to do this, but we delay a little bit because my feelings with the bike was not the best one. So I prefer to sacrifice a little bit this to improve the bike, to try like new things, new setup things that we didn't try till today. and honestly was quite good. From 10 to 11, I was riding with used tires, trying more the wheel to me. I mean, different things on the setup. And when I was feeling quite okay, I put in the tires, no? And as you said, I improved my lap time here. My best lap time was 57.7. I did it 7.3, so I'm quite happy also because when we did it, the track was not on the perfect conditions, no? But anyway, I'm quite satisfied for what we tested. So let's bring all this package to Thailand to see how it works there, and let's try to prepare the race.
Have you already made a choice on the engine to use in the first race?
Sorry?
Have you made a choice? Have you selected which engine you want to use in the first race? Do you have it clear in that side?
Yeah. We choose the engine in Montmeló. Here, all four plus the test riders, we had the same engine, so was already selected.
And regarding the chassis part of the bike, because you have had many items, do you have something clear as well?
Yeah, we tested yesterday the chassis, this new chassis with swing arm, with small modification on the chassis compared in the shakedown. And we were expecting a little bit more. It was not a good item, no, to bring it forward. They will bring to Italy now to modifying again and to see which is the way.
Alex Rins ended the day just inside the top 10. Well, let's head straight back down to pit lane. In fact, let's head straight down to where the checkered flag is being waved, because the checkered flag is now out on the Sepang test, and Jack Appleyard is right in position for us. Jack.
I am indeed, yes, that is it. 3 days of testing done and dusted. Some will be happy, some not, as we wait for the rider to officially come over the start-finish line and declare this, the Sepang test for 2025, done and dusted. So many stories, so many headlines around the world, and it all started 14 laps into it, as we've been saying, with the world champion down and out. After that, as we've been saying, Yamaha on the rise, Ducati with their engine troubles, Aprilia having to go it one man alone. Honda, it looks as though they're starting to move in the right direction, and KTM, amid all of the controversy coming into the start of this year, look to have been able to find a step as well. It is really building up to be the best season of MotoGP that we have ever seen. Legacies on the line up and down the grid, and I'm hoping that a rider is going to come across the line very soon indeed. In fact, dearie me, we've built it up for a moment like that. And who is this? Who's the culprit that couldn't even come across the start-finish line and take the checkered flag to give us our moment? Lorenzo Savadori, you had one job, mate, to try and make a little bit of TV gold, and you've let us down. Right, on that note, back to you.
Yeah, Jorge Martin would have taken the checkered flag, wouldn't he? I guess that's one thing that Lorenzo Savadori couldn't quite match up to, replacing the reigning world champion. But anyway, we tried, but the checkered flag is now out on the Sepang test. And now let's show you how it's all ended. We haven't really mentioned his name yet over the course of the show, because a lot of the talk has been about Yamaha and of course Ducati, but it's Alex Marquez who ends this Sepang test on top. The GP24, just as it was last time he came here, is the bike to beat. Alex Marquez from Pecco Bagnaia, 7,000 separate them. That was Bagnaia's time attack early this morning. Fabio Quartararo third with the fastest ever Yamaha lap of this circuit, ahead of Franco Morbidelli, who we'll hear from later, and Marc Marquez, the first rider out of the 156s. Pedro Acosta, Johann Zarco, Joan Mir completing your top 8. The two Hondas beating the best that they've done so far at this circuit. Bezzecchi top Aprilia, 9th from Alex Rins, and Fermin Aldeguer, who's top rookie. Jack Miller for Pramac, 12th ahead of Brad Binder, and Ayaguro Luca Marini ahead of the first of the Tech 3 KTMs, Maverick Vinales. Expect more from them as the season progresses. Miguel Oliveira, Enea Bastianini, and Somkiat Chantra, who will be joining us in the studio a little bit later on, was in 19th. Michele Pirro, of course, was drafted in for Fabio Di Gianantonio, completes your top 20 ahead of Lorenzo Savadori, and Andrea Dovizioso was doing the Yamaha testing honours today.
MotoGP is back.
And you can be a part of it if you are in Bangkok on Sunday night. Starts late in the afternoon if you're in Thailand. Of course, that'll be sort of mid to late morning in Europe. The 2025 MotoGP season launch, a spectacular event to launch our 2025 season. Make sure you're either watching on MotoGP.com or if you're in the Bangkok region, as Jack Appleyard will be, who has just rejoined me in the studio, get yourself down there. It is free to enter for the public to have a look at the MotoGP season launch. And what a season we're in for. What are the big takeaways for you, Jack, when we look back on the 3 days of testing we've seen? What is the headline from your point of view?
Well, we spoke about it in the social media live earlier to move on from Yamaha. Obvious, the way in which they've worked over the winter months to be able to be in the position that they are now. But I think that the key thing, certainly for the start of the season, is what an opportunity lies ahead, in particular for two riders. One fastest, Alex Marquez, and the other, Franco Morbidelli, both of whom had real struggles last year. Franco Morbidelli, for obvious reasons, after missing pre-season, was never able to get back and show what he's about. And you do feel it's been, nearly 5 years now since we've been able to see the best version of Franco Morbidelli. And Alex Marquez, as you see some troubles. Oh no, Lorenzo Savadori just moving off to the left-hand side. Sorry, that's Marco Bezzecchi. And the other being Alex Marquez, who went podiumless apart from that one opportunity in the Saxon Ring last year, which he would have hoped to have built on a very successful 2023. But the GP24 this year is going to be the bike to be on, as simple as that, in the opening 3 or 4 rounds of the year before we get to Europe and the factory machines are able to develop and become more complete themselves. And I do feel that Marquez and Morbidelli are two names that we're going to have to watch very, very closely indeed. The pair of them brimming with confidence, when Franco Morbidelli in particular, we said it yesterday, you just feel as though a weight has been lifted off his shoulders. The personality oozing off of him now is chalk and cheese to the last couple of years, where, to be perfectly frank, interviewing him day after day, week after week, it hasn't been great fun at times because he's often not had too much to say. And Frankie, as a character, he's pretty monosyllabic. But luckily, those syllables are starting to gather real momentum, as is his riding as well.
Yeah, it feels like it's a genuine relaxed confidence with Franco Morbidelli rather than a sort of resignation, which I think we saw at times in the last couple of years or so. A genuine air of confidence from Franco Morbidelli. We did see him go out for a race simulation earlier on in the day. It did tail off slightly. You asked him in the written press media scrum earlier on what happened in the end. He just said, I stopped, which was a very simple answer to a straightforward question from Franco Morbidelli. But certainly his race rhythm in the first half of that run was pretty comparable with what we saw in the race here last year.
Absolutely, it was strong. Very, very strong indeed. And we're going to look at some of the sprint simulations later. Well, very late on in this one, Alex Marquez was able to put in the best of anyone. When we look at average lap time over a 10-lap distance, Marc Marquez, we're going to speak about, was able to do 57.9. Alex Marquez was a tenth quicker, 57.8. Now, to put that into some kind of context, the fastest lap, full stop, in the sprint here in November, which Jorge Martin, I'm sure you will all remember at home, dramatically won to put one hand on the World Championship. The fastest lap on that day was a 57.8. Alex Marquez today did 10 of them, basically. That is incredibly fast. You do have to feel a little bit for Alex Marquez that his opportunity, as we've been saying, is going to come at the opening 4-5 rounds of the year before the factory guys catch up. If only Sepang was round 1 or 2, because this is his circuit. He loves it here. He's always so fast. But the bad thing is, it's the penultimate round of the year.
He's not too bad at Buriram either, isn't he? We recall him being in the battle for the podium in 2023 before he crashed out towards the sort of mid part of the race, just as the leaders were starting to gap him after he'd definitely gone for that softer rear tyre. But the GP24 riders, certainly the two who have experience, Alex Marquez and Franco Morbidelli, certainly the ones to watch. But Fermin Aldeguer has shown us enough over this test that he seems to be a pretty quick learner on that GP24.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to be there. We mentioned it yesterday. That fight between Aldeguer and Agura is going to be a really interesting one to watch, because they're two polar opposite characters, polar opposite in the way in which they ride the bike as well. And obviously working for rival manufacturers, it's going to be really interesting to see how that one develops over the year. And on the GP24, I mean, we've been saying that it's just inevitable that the GP25 will catch up and surpass it as we go throughout the course of the year. Let's not forget, there's a real possibility here that Marc Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia opt for the 2024 engine.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the situation that they've got and the decision that they've got to make, I think the biggest question for me is, for Davide Tardozzi, for this man Davide Barana and for GD Delinea, why take the risk?
Well, you've got to use this engine for 2 years.
You've got to use this engine for 2 years, and you know that a 2024 engine is the best that's ever been produced. It dominated last year, 19 of the 20 Grand Prix. You can win a World Championship with that, no problem whatsoever, especially when you've got Bagnaia and Marquez on the bike. So why risk trying to find an extra half a tenth and opting for the 2025 engine when Pecco Bagnaia and Marc Marquez have explained to us its deficiencies, when you can be uber competitive with last year's engine with a few mods here and there, whether it be chassis, aero or whatever else? I think that is going to be the big question that we ask, and they're still asking down at Ducati as well. Is it worth it to risk it for 2 years when what we've got is already so good?
Yeah, just to explain that, if you're not up to date with the regulations regarding engines, when the season starts, the manufacturers not subject to concessions, which are Ducati, Aprilia and KTM, will be locked in. Once they choose an engine spec for the start of this season, they must run it for both the 2025 and 2026 MotoGP seasons. That is to tie us over to the changing engines for 2027 when we go to 850cc. Yamaha and Honda, of course, are not subject to that because they still have the concessions, although I guess we'll be asking the question at some stage how long Yamaha's concessions will last if their performances trend the way testing has gone. But that is why that decision is so important for Ducati, because it won't just impact this season, it will impact the next two.
Yeah, and we've been here before, you feel, as well. If I remember rightly, was it the 2022 pre-season when Ducati tried to improve on perfection and got it completely wrong? And that was the year that, in the end, very last minute ahead of the opening round in Qatar, they opted to go for a 2021.5 engine for Miller and for Bagnaia. Of course, that was the year that Martin and Bastianini fought to become a factory Ducati rider, and Martin was so punchy when speaking to the media. In fact, I think the phrase he used was, it's as if someone has made the decision sitting in the stands rather than being inside the box, because him and Johann Zarco were lumped with the 2022 engine, which just wasn't anywhere near as competitive as what they had in 2021. So I'm sure the mistakes they made there, which they've said in previous pre-seasons that they wouldn't make again, you just feel as though we're starting to get into that situation again, and maybe it will take someone in that box just to have a little bit of realism and a little bit of calm to say, look, let's not make sure that we have this same issue again with the opportunity presented in front of us as it is.
Well, let's hear from one of those GP24 riders that we think you might need to be watching closely when the new season begins. We promised him earlier, now let's hear from Franco Morbidelli.
Of the test here in the last day, and for sure today you even improved your best lap time here in a few months ago in the GP, so I think the feelings has to be good.
Yes. We got the aim of this testing, these 3 days of testing, which it was to get on a good rhythm together and get to know each other well and understand some more things of the bike, which I couldn't explore last year. And actually I felt better than last year, and I could improve my lap time compared to last year's qualifying, and my feeling is really good, even though it's just the third day on the bike and with the new team. So I'm really pleased with the job of these 3 days.
Do you see any positive of having the same package for the whole pre-season, the same package probably for the whole season? Can you, like this, focus more on your riding style and on yourself?
Sure. The positives, there are positives of about having the 24 package completely like last year's. One of them is for sure having just the focus on yourself and what you need to do to get better and to improve your feeling on the bike without trying too many stuff on developing side. So on this matter is for sure an advantage, and on other topics for sure is an advantage. And for sure the speed we had these 3 days for just the beginning, of our journey together. It's already great, so it shows for sure the potential of this GP24.
And finally, Franco, even the factory riders are saying that the 24 spec is at the moment faster than the 25. So are you aware that these first races of the year maybe are a good opportunity for you to show up there in the standings?
Yes, I'm aware.
You think it's a good opportunity for you maybe to even win a race?
Definitely yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Emilio Vasquez getting what I think we call there the Frankie Morbidelli experience there. We've fallen
I've had
foul
it,
of that in the
I've had
past.
it.
Don't ask him a yes or no question.
Yep, I've fallen foul to that many occasions. Me and Frankie have had our duels over the year. Always enjoy them, and the good thing about him, always does it with a smile on his face. Does help.
It does. We love interviewing Frankie Morbidelli, and feels like we're going to see that smile a little bit as we go through this season. Well, before we heard from Frankie, we were discussing the potential dilemma that Ducati are facing when we go into this new season, and we've been keeping a close eye on Ducati through the day because sprint simulations have been afoot here at Sepang. To take a close look at what's been going on, we can hand back to HQ now and join Elliot York and Kiko Giles. Guys, over to you.
Thanks, Lewis. Yeah, Frankie treatment is absolutely back, but at least he's happy. That's the main thing. So you mentioned about Ducati simulations. Now, let's just talk you through basically the structure of a test, because we've had 3 days, but on the first day, second day, we only really saw short runs. There's not really been that opportunity, El, to get the pace down, because everyone's trying things. They're still getting set up. Ergonomics for the riders have changed. But day 3 is when we can really get in, stuck in, and see exactly what the times are like. Now, there's a lot of deliberation about the GP25 versus the GP24. So the sprint sim with Ducati, we need to speak with the riders to see exactly what combination of engine with chassis it was. But the sprint simulation stuff is very interesting.
Very interesting, and that's why we were looking forward to day 3, because we mentioned yesterday and all through the test that day 3 is when the time attacks come in and when we see plenty of sprint sims. All the riders want to do it, potentially race sims as well, but sprint sims, especially in the Sepang heat, a little bit easier on the body, especially after 2 days of testing. And Marc Marquez, it's a shame actually we didn't get to see Alex Marquez is in great deal, as Jack was touching on there, because his sounds impressive as well. But impressive too was Marc Marquez. His average lap time, as Jack mentioned a little bit earlier in pit lane, was 1:57.9. So to put that into a little bit more context, Martin's Malaysian sprint average time, he won the sprint of course last year, a 1:58.4, so half a second quicker on average was Marc Marquez than Martin in the sprint last year. Of course, as we've said, conditions are different, but that's really, really positive for Marc Marquez. He's also 5.5 seconds quicker than his sprint sim he did last year in the test in 2024. Obviously, you'd expect him to be somewhat quicker because he was just adapting to the Ducati at that point. But nevertheless, he was still 2 seconds faster than Fabio Di Giannantonio's sprint sim last year in the test. He was the Italian, the fastest sprint sim we saw in the test last year.
And Mark's still learning this year's bike. That's an important point. And the team around him and the crew chief.
Yeah, and they're still testing parts. The engine is a massive dilemma, as the guys have mentioned back over in Sepang as well. That's obviously in the forefront of their minds. But for Mark to still be testing, getting used to the GP25 and GP24, he's had 2 new bikes to learn, of course, as well. And moving on to Pecco, just quickly, his sprint sim wasn't as impressive. He only set 2 1:57s, both the 57.8s, and we know that Mark's average lap time was 57.9. So Pecco's sprint sim wasn't quite as good as Mark's, in fact, quite a lot less good than Mark's. But don't read too much into that. But reading into Marc Marquez's sprint sim, impressive stuff, and I think we're going to get excited about it.
He said yesterday, Mark, in his interview, that it is literally one of the hardest jobs he's had to do because he is learning 2 bikes. As a rider, he's obviously ultra professional, multiple world champion, but even that in just 3 days, it is going to cloud what you're feeling because he's not got last year's reference. He's got to learn that reference and then apply it to this year.
Exactly. I mean, it's a little bit of a gauntlet, you feel, laid down by Marc Marquez. He'd have wanted to go out today and set a marker down, get a good sprint sim in, get a decent time attack lap time in as well, just to send a little bit of a message. Yeah, I'm getting used to 2 new bikes, but I'm the 8-time world champion. I'm here to win this title in 2025. So really impressive stuff from Mark. Not quite as good as his younger brother. He won't be too pleased with that. Alex will have the bragging rights there going into the Buriram test, but impressive from both riders, particularly in Marc Marquez's case.
Don't forget, Mark has always said Alex is the quicker brother. I remember him saying that many, many years ago. Questions fired in, and don't forget, get your questions in to us. This doesn't stop here when the checkered flag comes out for us and after the flag. It comes out next week after the Buriram test. But how do you evaluate the sprint sims for Mark and Pecco? We've just been touching on it, really. You've got to say strong, and as a sporting perspective, without looking at the lap times really deep, because obviously the conditions vary, it's a positive. And Mark, to be on it like that, oof, we're in for a year.
As I said, it's a gauntlet laid down. Only a small one, of course. We'll see what they're capable of in Buriram as well. And obviously, we can't wait to hear what they said about the engine, about the new bike, about the direction they're going in, because that is a really tough call. They're gaining less in the acceleration area than they are losing in the braking zone. And Pecco loves how the GP24 broke. He said it's out of this world in the braking zone. So impressive stuff from both, really positive from Mark in particular. We're not going to read too much into Pecco's. We know when it comes to race time at the Thai GP, he's going to be right up there with the best of them. But for Mark to get that banker in nice and early, to sort of lift any weight off his shoulders in terms of demons in his head potentially, and to probably get one up on Pecco early doors, a job well done from Mark.
It's going to be very, very fascinating to see how it plans out, because we looked at some of the stats from day one, I think it was. And some more have come in. So let's take a look at these. Remember that graphic that we had on day one with the dream team and all the heavy hitting, the heavyweight teams of years gone by? Well, this is why. Look at the race wins. All of Pecco's, obviously with Ducati. Mark's majority, all but 3, have been with Honda. Sprint wins, okay, Mark's still working on that, but don't forget, in terms of sprint, he had 1 year on a Honda which was uncompetitive, and last year he was learning a Ducati. But the podiums, Elliot, 111 for Mark, 51 for Pecco, and the world titles speak for themselves. That's MotoGP Premier Class, just to be clear. This is a lineup which we spoke on Monday about it being fiery, dynamic. But weirdly, it seems like they're going to be working together for the foreseeable, at least until lights out in Thailand.
For the next couple of days next week, yeah. And then it's every man for themselves, you feel. Pecco said in his interview, we're going to be working together until the Thai GP. They want to get the best bike as possible. The engine, as we've mentioned, is the big talking point. Do they go for the 25 one for this year and, of course, next year? Or do they stick with the tried and trusted 2024 one? I mean, this here, for me, is the interesting one. 11 sprint wins, 1 sprint win. This is an area where both of them need to improve in 2025.
Too many mistakes from this guy.
Correct.
Not enough experience for the other.
Absolutely. Saturdays is going to be crucial this year. Martin, the king of sprints last year, it's ultimately what won him the title. So that's going to be interesting to see how that develops. We know this is going to also develop pretty promisingly for Ducati. But yeah, a good test for Ducati. Important decisions to be made, and I'm intrigued to see where they sit after Buriram next week.
All of these things, race wins, sprint wins, podiums, they all make this MotoGP World titles. But unfortunately for Ducati, it's not that easy. Stats are one thing. Deciding which engine is something completely different. Just because it's new doesn't mean it's better. We'll have some more analysis a little bit later on, but I think it's time to head back all the way to Malaysia very, very soon. I think Lewis and Jack, one or the other, will be waiting in anger to get back and bring you some coverage on site. Lewis, over to you.
Thanks very much, guys. Yeah, it is a good point you make when you analyse those sprint simulations that Pecco Bagnaia generally saves his best for the Sunday, doesn't he? Well, we heard from Aki Ayo earlier on. Of course, he's been a team manager for Pedro Acosta in Moto2. Now, of course, he's his team manager in MotoGP. Jack Appleyard has disappeared, and the reason is because he's headed over to the broadcaster set, and he can now bring us live thoughts from Pedro Acosta. Jack, over to you.
Pedro, the Sepang test officially done and dusted. How do you reflect on it?
Well, quite happy about everything that we try, even knowing that yesterday we don't really make many laps with all the perhaps that we have around. Quite happy, many conclusions, many question marks also for Buriram test, but quite happy about the development of the KTM.
Lap time today was a good one. 10th and a half quicker than KTM have ever been before. Happy with that?
Well, was not really fine at the end. I mean, was missing a bit, but it's true that I think we have a little bit more in the pocket. Just wait to put everything together in Buriram.
Where were you missing a little bit? Looking at the sector times, it looked as though split two was
where... Yeah, it was a bit of mess around, you know, and we forget about a bit the lap time. But anyway, we was quite happy with our 57.1. We are ready for more for this. Anyway, the bike was feeling quite comfortable for this. It's not so normal for us. For this, we have to be happy.
Did we see KTM's real level throughout this test?
Not at the moment, I think. I mean, we have a space to improve. Still many things that we need to try and recheck, but we are quite happy about our performance.
Thanks, Pedro.
Thank you.
Thanks to Pedro Acosta, and a small apology there for Pedro Acosta's fruity use of the English language, but clearly explaining why he was perhaps a little bit short of the lap time that some might have expected of him today. From KTM to Aprilia next, and of course with the absence of Jorge Martin, all of the pressure and all of the work in the factory team has been done by Marco Bezzecchi, even with test rider Lorenzo Savadori drafted in. So what is the story, and how does Marco feel at the end of his 3 days of testing? We can also hear from Bez. He's with Jack.
Marco, talk us through the opening morning of the final day. How's it gone?
Yeah, this morning was a positive morning again. We are continuing to test all the items that we plan to do. I had finally the possibility also to do a time attack, and was not too bad considering that is my first one with Aprilia. So yeah, overall happy about the morning. We still have something to try, and hopefully if we are able to follow the plan, I will also try a sprint simulation this afternoon. So let's see if everything goes well. I hope that we will be able to try everything, so I can also see a bit my pace that looks not too bad, and yeah, can't complain.
Yeah, the time attack looked quite good, 57.3. I think that's your best ever lap of Sepang by about half a second as well. Last best was 57.8 from my calculations. So
yeah?
Yeah, nice.
I don't remember, but I think for sure is my best lap time. Because of this, I'm happy. Of course, I wanted to. Everyone is making a lot of time attacks, so seeing everyone improving makes me anxious to improve as well. But we don't have to forget our target, that is to continue the work that we planned at the beginning of the test. It's important to try everything, and it's important to give good feedbacks. So let's put by one side the time attack, and let's focus on the job.
During the time attack, how did the bike react, and how close to the limit do you think you were?
The bike react very well. Is a difficult bike when you put new tire. Is more aggressive. You need to be also to fight a bit more with the tire. The grip that the tire gives to the bike is impressive when you put new tire. But still, I'm not at my 100%. I don't know enough the bike, so sometimes maybe I could do a bit more. But this will come with some time, so I'm not worried.
Just finally, Aprilia's weakness last year seemed to be at the end of the Grand Prix, managing to keep hold of tyre life and looking after those tyres as much as possible. From your work on used tyres over the 3 days here, do you feel as though improvements have been made there? Have you been able to look after that grip a little bit more?
Well, to be honest, I don't know how was the bike last year, but for what I can say, the bike looks good also with all tires. Is a little bit easier to ride. Of course, the performance is still not the best, but we are working on. And to be honest, I'm quite satisfied about my performance with used tire. But anyway, I would like this afternoon to try a sprint simulation also to see 10 laps in a row, pushing hard and seeing how it is, how it works during a longer run. So I will tell you after this.
Thanks, Marco.
Yeah, that was Marco Bezzecchi speaking a little bit earlier today, but we now have one of our MotoGP rookies who has joined us. Somkiat Chantra has joined us. Welcome, Somkiat. That smile, I guess, has been permanently on your face since you found out you're going to be a MotoGP rider. How happy are you with your Sepang test?
Yeah, for me it was really, really happy. From the check down, come to see the new bike and also see all the team because from very long we don't see them like from maybe the test in Barcelona and quite long, and when we come to see him here again, and we try to make more family and more friendly and try to learning the bike more and try to talk more with the mechanic.
We spoke to Fabio Quartararo earlier, and of course he's been in MotoGP now for 6 years, and he said physically he was a bit sore at the end of this test because he was also here at the shakedown. How's the back? How are the shoulders? How are you feeling?
Yeah, today I was this the last day of official test in Sepang, and was the last day we was have a little long run. We try some long run, and for me I feel my body need more power on the shoulder, really the point, because when change direction, some point was still like not enough power to push the bike more.
You're the first Thai rider to race in MotoGP, as I'm sure you know. Just how proud are you of that fact? We'll come on to Buriram in a moment, but just how proud are you that you're going to be representing your country as Thailand's first MotoGP rider?
Yeah, for me it was really happy to be in MotoGP rider. I was try from young. I see on the TV and like I see and I say on myself like I want to be there one day, and finally I come here and I was very happy. Like dream is come true. It's really nice.
Of course, we've got the MotoGP season launch coming up on Sunday night in Bangkok, and then the first race of the season in Buriram. You're going to be getting the superstar treatment over there. How ready are you for that?
Yeah, in the 9th of February, we have a MotoGP team lunch, and I hope all the fans will come a lot in the one Bangkok. It's very nice, and also you can see many riders in MotoGP class there, and you can have a nice picture there also. And the first race was in Buriram. Yeah, I hope all the fans and all the sport will be go there and to looking MotoGP rider, and also we have many classes like Moto3, Moto2 and MotoGP, and sure you will be fun to go in Buriram circuit. You will see how it's fast with the bike, and for sure you will enjoy that.
See, I don't need to promote the race now. You've just done it. You've just given it the big sell for the first race of the season. One other person I wanted to ask you about, because of course there are 3 rookies in MotoGP this season: Fermin Aldeguer, yourself, and Ai Ogura, the Moto2 world champion. Tell us about your relationship with Ai, because you two are as close as brothers, aren't you?
Yeah, me and Ai Ogura, we was a really close friend. Also, we was a teammate also in Honda Asia team. And when we go up in MotoGP class, also we was still friend also, because when the first day in Barcelona, we was see each other, and we was asked, hey, how is the bike? And yeah, me and I was say, oh yes, was a lot of power and little bit difficult to control on the bottom like that, and was very nice. And me and him was we was have a relationship quite very good, and me and him was talking every time. Also when we come here to Sepang test, also we was talking about here also how is riding and how is going on this day like that.
And just finally, she'll be very gracious with your time. So one more question for me before we let you go. The Buriram test coming up next week, 2 more days before the first weekend of the season. What are the big things that you're looking to work on there? What areas do you still want to improve on?
Yeah, from here in Sepang, we have an official test, and also we was quite good, and also we was improve day by day. And yeah, also my team was always give everything quite good thing to try, and also when we try, and always a positive thing, and we also like okay, we follow on this way and was getting better. And for sure in Buriram they say we will have something little bit more, and we will try something more, and we be more better.
Top man. It's great to have you in MotoGP. Thanks very much for joining us, and we wish you the best of luck and all the celebrity treatment you're going to get over the next week or so in Thailand. We hope you enjoy the week and the experience of being a MotoGP rider.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Somkiat Chantra joining us live on After the Flag. Leave your microphone there, Somkiat, and we'll let you go. He's an absolutely top guy, and we're now going to hear from another. Let's hear the thoughts of Jack Miller at the end of his first test of 2025 with Pramac Yamaha. Here's Jack.
Jack, 5 days here in Sepang, so I think you got some good conclusions after this test.
Yeah, obviously all at the same track, so no, but in general, feeling with the bike's really good. Bike's working well. Just playing around with different settings, trying to just understand the reaction of the bike, how it's going to change it, and so on. So no, it's been having the shakedown was really handy for us, and then we've been able to really get through the test items that we had for this test throughout these last 3 days. So it's been good. Ran out a little bit of time today, this morning, while the track conditions were cooler. We had a couple little things to test, and then by the time we got that done, we threw a tyre in, and it was already quite late. And then, on the second one, I tried to go, it was about 1 o'clock, and managed to dump the front. Just one of those things, finding the limit at turn 4. I knew I was coming in quite hot, but I tried to commit to it anyway. But no, in general, happy with the performance of the bike. Of course, we have some room to improve, but to be already in the low 57s, we can be happy with that. And look forward to coming back here at the end of the year.
After many laps with the Yamaha, I think you already realized the weak and strong points of the bike.
Definitely. Yeah, no. I think we're quite clear on which way we want to work and which areas we need to improve. So we'll see now. Obviously, going back to back here and in Thailand, quite two different tracks. So it'll be interesting to see how the bike reacts, how our base setup works in Thailand, and what we need to do over the test there.
And the performance of Yamaha overall has been something newsworthy here in this test. You have also had the opportunity to try some new items. Do you think Yamaha definitely made a step up this year?
I think they've made a step for sure, and we will continue to make steps. That's the main objective, is to not get comfortable. We still have a lot of work to do, and we will continue to do that.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Jack Miller was 12th today, 8th at the end of the day, and inside the top 10 was Joan Mir, the 2020 World Champion, has joined us live. Joan, thanks very much for joining us. A 1:57.279 at the end of the test. Would you have signed for that a week ago?
Yeah, probably, yes. Yes, I think that, the lap times are fast, and we are getting closer. That's the reality. We are a lot closer in this test than last year, and that makes us happy. It's true that we always want more, and it's not easy to be satisfied when you have a couple of riders in front of you. Every time we have less, but it's a good start, let's say, of the season. I think this result is good for the team. Because it's like a small reward after the work that they've been doing this winter. They work well, and the lap times are closer. So there's no magic here.
We've heard from quite a few of the Honda riders speaking about a step that they hope to see with the engine. We have seen an iteration of the 2025 engine in the Hondas this week. Did it bring you a step? Were you happy with the step that it brought you?
Yes, the reality is that the engine is a little bit better. We improved a little bit the horsepower, the top speed of the bike, and also the connection. That is something that last year I was complaining quite a lot. But not only this, I think that we need much more in terms of top speed. We probably are the last ones on this thing, and nowadays in MotoGP. You need a fast bike, especially for the qualifyings, especially for to overtake, and but yeah, we are on the way.
Romano Albiciano, of course, has joined Honda as the technical director. That was announced late last year. Are you already noticing some differences within the box, and how happy are you so far with the work that Romano is doing together with Aleix Espargaro, of course, who's joined the team, and of course his crew chief Antonio Jimenez? There's been a real push at Honda to bring in new people to try and speed up the operation. How happy are you with how things are going there?
Yeah, I'm very happy. I had the opportunity to work with Romano these 3 days to know more about each other, and I would say that I'm happy about the work that he's doing. The method that he's implementing a little bit, his method, to have a connection between the Japanese and our engineers Romano is a very nice piece, and I think that he will do great, and I'm happy that he joins.
And finally, looking ahead to the Buriram test, 2 more days of testing before the first Grand Prix, which of course is at the same circuit in Thailand. What are you looking for there? What kind of things are you looking to try and achieve in those 2 days of testing we have out in Thailand?
Yeah, probably we have to put all together there in the test. Try to give to collect all the comments that we gave these 3 days that were not a few. And try to take good conclusions to make another step forward in that test, on that test. That step means that we will arrive prepared to the first race, or we will struggle. That will be super important to understand. But like I said, to be able to be inside the top 10 during all the day, in all the days and during all the test sessions means that we are solid, and that makes me happy.
Positive signs. Thank you very much, Johann. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll let you go. So, Johann Mir, the 2020 World Champion, who ended the test in 8th place today. Now let's take a close look at what the factories have been up to, because, of course, the technological drive continues apace. Every factory bringing new parts to try and get an edge on the rest. Elliot York and Kiko Giles are ready to take a close look at that. Guys, over to you.
Aye, we are indeed. Thank you very much, Lewis. Now, we know you've been wanting some more tech stuff. We've got some more tech stuff for you. Obviously, though, with the regulations freezing for next year in terms of engine development and the new rules coming in for 2027, there's not the abundance that we previously have seen in this era of MotoGP. But regardless, we have got some stuff else, so we're going to go through it now. And I think we're going to start with Honda and KTM. We're going to get some pictures up on the screen very, very soon. We're just going to talk you through exactly what the details are. So let's look here. This is the new seat unit for KTM. Now, these fins, they were introduced last year, so that's not new. We know that they've been testing this Formula One inspired kind of rear aero. But what I want to draw your attention to is this. This is basically what is known as a salad box. We suspect in there is a mass dampener. A mass dampener basically used to kind of get weight. It's not just dead weight put straight in the box, but it is to get more weight and improve grip out of corners. It's particularly hard acceleration zones. And that's something KTM have struggled with in the past, Al. Yeah,
rear grip really not immediately out the corner, but just a little bit further out the corner, began to spin. And we saw last year, I think it was at the Japanese GP, where we saw Miller's heavy vibration on the rear. And he was saying, this is what I've been saying for the past few months. This is what I've been suffering with. And we saw it quite clearly. So KTM clearly working on in that area, which is their main area of issue. And that's why we've seen such a radical change at the back of the RC16 in the Sepang test.
Not just that, this exhaust is also new. And that little silver thing here, if I just get out of my way, the big meathead of me, that is an exhaust valve. Now, that will help braking. Now, it's very important here at Sepang, and also where we go next, Buriram, that braking, hard acceleration is worked on, because there's so many zones, Al, where that matters. That really is important. And KTM, you get the feeling they're right there, but not quite there. Remember, I always think back to Buriram in 23, that incredible race that we had with Binder, and he looks on the inside of the last corner, couldn't quite get it done. All these little things are going to get KTM, should get KTM to the next level.
Improve on corner exit is the main thing, but yeah, on corner entry, Ducati, especially Pecco, is the best braker in MotoGP. There's a step to be made in all areas for the manufacturers to bridge that gap, but you can see with the Ducati, the GP24 and Pecco, who I said earlier, said what they're doing in braking is out of this world. So KTM aren't far behind in terms of corner entry, but especially spinning on the exit just out of the corner is where they need to improve. So hopefully this, for KTM's sake, can help with that. We've not seen the true potential yet of KTM, as Pedro Acosta mentioned in his interview in the Sepang test. So hopefully we see it more in Buran, where there's plenty of hard braking zones, plenty of hard acceleration zones as well.
Worth noting as well that all 4 KTMs had that today. So we checked in with the guys at Sepang, and it was clear that all of the guys over there, KTM in the ACO squad of Binder and Acosta, and also Bastianini and Vinales had that new seat unit. Potentially, we can't confirm it, obviously, because no one knows what's inside these salad boxes, but it looked like a mass dampener. And the same again here. This is Honda. It looks they had the similar problems, but way more exaggerated last year.
Exactly. Corner entry, mid-corner, corner exit, down on power. I mean, it's a recipe compared to the other bikes to be much slower, and that's unfortunately what we saw. The factory duo of Marini and Mir didn't get a top 10 all season long. This sort of looks like, I'm sure you guys at home will agree, it looks like the first iteration of the salad box, I think Michele Pirro dubbed it as, that we saw from Ducati. So Honda building in this area. Zarco said he feels it a little bit more in the braking zones. He can feel more contact with the rear. They're definitely nowhere near where they want to be, but as we've heard from Mir as well, that they're making good progress, and the rear end is really where they need to make big progress.
You mentioned Michele Pirro. I think the big thing is that it actually took so long for KTM and Honda to bring this to the table. We saw this in Ducati in 2017.
All the manufacturers are just playing catch up. This is why we're talking about Honda and Yamaha especially being at least 2 years behind. Yamaha have obviously made a massive step in this pre-season. We're going to wait to see how it unfolds during the season, of course. Positive signs so far for Yamaha especially, but also for Honda as well. But they are at least a couple of years behind in the development race in MotoGP. So this is why they're just catching up now, trying to change their philosophies, working closer with Europe and back in Japan as well. So good to see Honda try new things, and it's gaining positive results, small gains at this moment in time, but good to hear the riders noticing some differences for sure.
Just on the mass dampener before, we've got Yamaha coming up, don't worry about that. Oh, right on scoop. Just on that mass dampener, think of it a bit as well like the whole shot device. It's just about getting weight on that rear tyre. That's what the whole shot device was originally for. Obviously that then evolved into the front one as well, but think of it like that. It's just about getting that weight, getting that drive grip with that rear tyre. Now, the Yamaha. I am not an engineer. That might be obvious already, just to clarify. But you can look back the last decade of Yamaha's chassis and they'll all have been the same, but this one isn't. Look at the weld point. And we don't have the old Yamaha to compare it, but you'll be able to see it if you have a quick look on MotoGP.com. The weld point is a lot higher up. Also, there's a load of bolt holes. That shouldn't matter too much. But the chassis is different, and that, I think, El, is the biggest change we've seen in Yamaha in a long time. The mentality has changed as well.
In decades, it's the biggest change we've seen, and we know it's well documented. Max Bartolini coming into the setup, closely working with Italy and back in Japan. They're building a new aerodynamics department in Italy as well. Just a change of philosophy for Yamaha is what's needed, and that's what's coming to fruition here. And we know the front end of the Yamaha, this man Jack Miller mentioned it, is one of the best in MotoGP, if not the best. Miller said it's the best front end he's ever ridden in MotoGP. But it's this end here that's the problem for Yamaha, especially out of the corner. That's why they're down on power. Okay, they've not got the best engine, but they're down on power because they can't get the grip to the floor, especially on the soft tyres. That's why it's good to hear Fabio Quartararo saying actually they've made a step in soft tyre performance. This is where it all really matters for Yamaha. In the fast corners, Fabio Quartararo is saying they don't suffer too much. It's in the slow corners, getting the punch out the corner. That's where they suffer from the top speed as well, making all their time into the braking zone. So good to see they've made progress, but great to see Yamaha and a little bit on the rear end here too, especially the chassis. Hopefully it can help them gain performance, which you have seen already, but time will tell in the races, of course, throughout the season.
Yeah, about the rear end, I think they first started testing that Stegosaurus-like tail unit around Qatar, but the test last year, I believe. But the seat unit is also different, particularly for Fabio, so you can take a closer look at that. We know that Yamaha have always been renowned for that corner speed, that classic Yamaha. Jack Appleyard put it that way, I think. Perfect description.
Yeah.
And Sepang suits it, and the sector times show it.
Exactly. In the middle two sectors was where Quartararo was pretty good. This is what's good about Sepang. This is why Honda are then coming back to Sepang instead of going to Portimao for the test, as we heard from Romano Albesiano in the midday live. If If you haven't seen it, go catch up with it.
Yep.
Interesting here from Romano Alberciano. It's a perfect testing circuit. Hard braking zones, hard acceleration zones, fast sweeping corners in the mid part of the track as well. And Yamaha clearly positive, not getting too carried away at this moment in time, but the chassis changes, the rear end changes are all progressing towards, of course, the aero updates as well, are progressing towards a faster Yamaha. We've seen that already, so good signs ahead for the Iwata brand.
And if you're wondering exactly why that weld point is so important, I mean, these bikes are so powerful. When these bikes are through the corners, it's all about how it flexes under pressure. And that weld point, for sure, will have increased grip or lessened grip, whatever Yamaha need. It's been modified for a reason. We're not engineers. We can't tell you exactly why. But the riders have commented that already they can feel it. But what does it all actually mean? We're talking in technical terms, but let's see some lap times. Let's see what it means when they get across the line. This is Honda. Now, look at their previous Sepang best. A 57.374. Johan Mir did that at last year's test. So the Sepang best right now is a 57.204, and that's also the ideal lap time from Johann Zarco. That's this year. So Honda a little bit better. They'll be wanting more, though.
Yeah, good progress, steady progress, as we've mentioned, but I think the gap to the front is where we need to be looking to Honda. In qualifying last year, in Q2, Zarco was 1.6 seconds from pole, as we have the screen disappear.
Power car!
But in testing, it's 7 tenths, Zarco is, and Mir as well, to the top guys. So decent progress, not too much as it reappears, just under 2 tenths. I mean, progress is progress at the end of the day. Yamaha gaining 8 tenths is sort of stopping the limelight for everyone else. But this is good progress from Honda. Again, let's wait to see what they do in Buriram. Intrigued to see what the times will be looking like in Buriram as well. But a good progress, but the gap to the front for me is the more important thing.
Somkiat Chantra was interesting as well. 1.6 seconds off as a rookie. That's really, really good stuff from him. More lap time analysis a little bit later on, but I think we can get back now to Malaysia. Lewis is there, ready and waiting. Lewis, what have you got for us? I'm sure it's something special.
It certainly is. It's the Moto2 world champion who's waiting to speak to us. We've already heard from Somkiat Chantra, who spoke a little bit about Ayagura, didn't he, and the relationship they have. Well, the Moto2 world champion has had a busy week. He's been busy at the shakedown. He certainly caught the eye with his long runs there. Let's find out how his Sepang test went. Ayagura speaking to Jack.
6 days here at Sepang, now officially done. Firstly, let's see the hands. What are they like after 6 days on the bike? Any big blisters, or are we okay?
No, it's all okay, all okay.
Let's talk about the final day. Did you feel you've taken another step in the right direction?
Yeah, for sure. I think we made another step today. But as I start the day knowing that it's a time attack day, and last 30 minutes I had a lot of new tires, but I couldn't improve my lap time, and I was a bit disappointed about last 30 minutes, but generally it was a good day, and we are in the right direction, I guess, so happy, yes.
Talk us through that last 30 minutes then. What did you learn?
Well, in the morning I did my lap, and in the afternoon I try again, but I stuck in 1 point. Maybe that's my maximum right now. Just from here, I will work hard with my team, and let's just keep improving. So, yeah.
After doing lap after lap after lap here in Sepang, excited to get a change of scenery and go to Thailand?
Yeah, I think now is the moment that we have to change the circuit, because to be honest, I had enough of Sepang. So no, but it was nice that I had the testing days, 6 days for a same circuit. 6 days at the same circuit, and it's easier to know the things, easier to understand the things. So it was a good 6 days and another 2 days in Chang. So yeah.
Thank you very much, well done.
Ayagura speaking to Jack Appleyard. Well, we can't go off the air from this Sepang test without hearing from the fastest rider of this Sepang test. That's Alex Marquez. Thanks very much for joining us, Alex. A 156.4 has put you at the top of the Sepang test. How much does that matter to you? Does it matter to you at all to be top of a test, or does it just at least give you a little bit of confidence going ahead to Buriram and the Grand Prix to come?
Confidence for sure. I mean, it's important, especially to have a good feeling on the first test, but also when you try to push for time attack and you are able to make some good lap time like 56.4, and I mean and to feel great on the bike is something really important. Also, rhythm and the sprint race was really good, and I feel really comfortable on the bike. So I think we did a fuel test today, but we never lose it the way to work.
Just explain to the viewers how big the step is between the GP23 and the GP24, and just how that plays to your riding style.
I mean, for my riding style is much better. It's suiting much more to me, especially because the bike is turning more. It's less critical to go in the corner, so everything looks is like more comfortable for the rider and give to you much more confidence. So I mean, it's true that, and I say it always. I love Sepang. So I mean, also we need to take care about that. But the feeling is really great, and I want to try again the bike on Thailand to see how far we can be there also.
So I guess with your situation, of course, on a bike that isn't going to see, I guess, too much development done to it, of course, as the GP24 last year's package. Do you almost see the Buriram test as almost the first 2 days of the Thai Grand Prix? Does it give you perhaps a bit of a head start on the Grand Prix that maybe others who have to test items don't get?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but I think everybody, they will try a few things for sure, the factory. But I think at least the last day, everybody will use to prepare the Thai GP. I mean, everybody will focus to be there, and the last day of Thai is where everybody will put everything on. So I mean, until that point, we need to work in our weight. We need to focus in what we have and extract the potential, the 100% potential that as we did here. But I mean, just keep calm. Still many things to do. We didn't win nothing. As I said, it's a really good thing to start the season or the pre-season like this. But there's still 2 days ahead in Thailand.
I know you want to keep calm, so you're going to love my next question. But looking at the GP24s of yourself and Franco Morbidelli that have been competitive throughout this test, we've been keeping an eye on the factory team, and it seems they're still a little bit undecided as to whether they're going to go with the 25 engine or maybe stick with the 24, given that we've got a 2-year engine freeze coming up. Do you look at these early races potentially as a big opportunity for you if the GP25 hasn't quite got to its peak level yet? That perhaps the gap between last year and this year's might not be so big, and that might give you an opportunity.
Depend which package they decide to use the factory. I mean, if they decide, I mean, I don't know if they have the opportunity to come back or not. It's not my problem, so I don't care about that. I know what I have, so I mean, what they decide will not influence to me what we need to do on the work, what we need to do. So I mean, we'll have the 24 from the first race of the season until the end, and we'll have that. So the same package all the season. So we need to focus in ourselves. Don't look to the other ones because it's a little bit the mistake that I did last year. So just focus on what we have on the garage and try to go forward on that.
Well, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
The fastest rider of the Sepang test, Alex Marquez. Thank you very much for joining us. And after the
Thank
flag, free to go that way. Alex Marquez, your fastest rider here in Sepang, 7,000ths clear of Pecco Bagnaia. For some closing thoughts before we bring our Sepang test coverage to a close, we can head back one last time to Barcelona HQ and join Elliot York and Kiko Giles. Guys, up to you.
Thanks, Lewis. Yeah, we were just talking about the lap times there, with Honda. They've obviously made some steps, but we've got a couple more graphics coming up for you. We've squeezed them in last minute. I know we're pushed for time, but the guys have allowed us a couple more minutes, so let's get straight to it. Pecco Bagnaia for Ducati, 56.3. That was the previous Sepang best. The current Sepang test best is a 56.4, so no change there. But the ideal lap time from Alex Marquez, who we just saw, a 3.83. So still, the GP24, the bike to be on.
Absolutely, and that's what we expected coming into pre-season. It's a proven package. We're 19 of the 20 races. Last year, we expected Alex Marquez, especially after the Barcelona test as well, where he tops that by over 0.3 of a second. Super impressive stuff. Admittedly, he said it suits his riding style better, and you can clearly see that. This was a big one for me. His ideal lap time was just over a tenth faster than his actual lap time, 156.383, not very far off the all-time lap record set by Pecco Bagnaia at all. And with an extra bit of adrenaline thrown in, he knows he likes Sepang, we get that. But this is really, really impressive from Alex Marquez to be super close to Pecco Bagnaia, who at that time was really, really used to, obviously, the GP24 at that point. Alex still getting used to it. I mean, it's pretty much the perfect bike. So super impressive stuff from Alex Marquez to be so close to Pecco's pole time from last year.
And we saw him in the footage that we saw, actually. He looks so comfortable. He's absolutely wringing its neck already. And I think we've got the big one. This is the one we want to see. Yamaha, straight on. Look at the difference, ladies and gentlemen. 57.5 from Fabio Quartararo. That was in last year's test. Now, they did a 56.7 this year. Look how much quicker it is. But then look again at the ideal lap time. It's absolutely remarkable. More or less a second quicker than what he managed last year versus what he could manage this year. There's still pace in the locker.
I mean, that number that's ridiculous. Magnificent.
Ridiculous.
Yamaha could not have wished for a better test in terms of the lap time. Okay, they've still got some decisions to make and improvements to make, but I mean, that is some improvement. I think Fabio Quartararo told the media that between 19 and 23, they'd picked up in Sepang, half a second, maybe
6
just
tenths,
yeah. And from 2024 to 2025, they've picked up 8 tenths of a second, a massive jump compared to what we've seen over the last few years from Yamaha, and the ideal lap time even quicker, only a couple of tenths off what Ducati did in qualifying Pecco Bagnaia, and we know how fast that qualifying was, one of the best qualifyings of all time. So, I mean, this just rings home how much Yamaha have improved. We're going to get excited. Jack Appleyard's definitely going to get excited back over in Sepang, as we've seen. Yamaha are going to keep their feet on the ground, though, of course. They're going to try it again in Buriram and see where they're at. And then, of course, when it matters is practice in the afternoon at the Thai GP and in qualifying as well. But we're going to get a little bit excited here in the studio and back in Malaysia. I'm sure you guys at home want to see Yamaha back at the front as well, like we do. And hopefully it's not going to be too long before we see that.
That's the end of After the Flag for us. Have you enjoyed it?
Apart from being with you, yeah, it's been fantastic. So hopefully you guys at home have enjoyed it. More to come, of course, next week in Buriram. So looking forward to it, mate.
Feelings mutual. Don't make me, actually. Lewis, Jack, how are things over there? Oh, it's just Lewis. So Jack must be elsewhere. Or he's small. He could be there. Thank you very much. We'll see you in Thailand, guys.
Yeah, you'll find out where Jack is in just a second. We'll be back with Elliot and Kiko for the Buriram test, assuming they haven't strangled each other by then. Well, we saw and heard from Alex Marquez a moment ago, the fastest rider of the test, but is the rider in the box seat at the end of this 3-day Sepang test actually Marc Marquez? An ominous sprint simulation this afternoon from the 8-times world champion. Let's get his thoughts now. Speaking to Jack.
Mark, the engine, have you made a decision?
Question to be the first one. So, but it's true that still we need to analyze well and retry a bit in Thailand because the most important decision you need to try in a different kind of circuit, and now it's time the engineers will have time at home to analyze all the small details, because it's not only the engine, it's a few different parts that we need to be very, very sure. Why? Because 24 package is super good and the performs in a very good way, and looks like the Ducatis are there, all the Ducatis. So yeah, we need to be super clear, super sure that that is much better. And at the moment we don't know, so we need to wait.
Is that a big part of the thinking within the garage at the moment? When the 2024 bike, the engine is so good and you have to lock this in for 2 years, why take the risk?
This is the main thing. We cannot take a unnecessary risk. We need to understand that with the previous package already they won 19 races from 20. So yeah, we need to understand that. But of course, always the engineers and the manufacturer want to improve, and they are trying. But if it's not completely sure, it's better to step back, because it's smart. But some positive on 25, so still try to understand.
A very impressive sprint simulation that you did today, 10 laps, averaging out at 157.9. Firstly, was that with the 25 or the 24 package? And secondly, give us your thoughts on how comfortably that came.
Yeah, it was a bit mixed. The bike was a bit mixed, that 25-24. But it's true that on that simulation I feel super good. On time attack I did only one tire because I couldn't crash. I mean, if you crash in the beginning of the day, then you penalize all the day. So I had 2 different bikes, so I prefer to do only one tire. I saw the lap time was already enough, so then I concentrate more for that simulation of sprint race. And yeah, it was a good one. Still, I think Alex beat me. He's there speaking, beat me for 2-3 tenths. But yeah, good to be in Malaysia and good to have a good feeling here.
Last one, Pecco said yesterday it's a 50-50 decision. Has that changed?
No, not changed. Still, because it's not, as I say, it's not only an engine. It's always a package of small things, and now the engineers will have time to analyze a lot of labs for me, for Pecco, and yeah. I think they will do a good decision, because what I saw these 3 days in the garage, that they are very brave and calm to take the correct decisions, and especially conservative is the word. Sometimes you need to be conservative when you have already the best bike. So let's see.
Thanks, Marc.
Thank you.
Jack Appleyard rejoined me, having spoken to Marc Marquez seconds ago. Once again, the power of television in full effect. But Marc Marquez caught a lot of attention up in here in the media centre when he did that sprint simulation. A show of the strength that Ducati undoubtedly have, but by no means is it plain sailing for them. They have some big decisions to make.
They do have some big decisions to make. However, listening to him there, in particular, those final words, from spending time in the garage, I've realised that the Ducati are brave to make the big decisions. Is that a big decision to go away from the 2025 package and all of the development work over the winter and opt to stick with the 2024? And again, he said the word in the garage at the moment is conservatism. Why try and improve on perfection? I think everything that Marc Marquez said there, for me, is him indicating that right now Ducati are leaning towards completely disregarding that 2025 engine and all of the work that they've done in Bologna over the winter months, and instead sticking with the 2024 engine for this new season.
That's certainly going to be a headline and a story to follow over the Buriram test. We will have the full coverage next week, Wednesday and Thursday of next week. 2 days of the Buriram test. We'll have the midday live at 3 p.m. as we have this week, and of course 90 minutes of reaction analysis after the flag from 5:30 local time. Before that, of course, Jack will be heading over to Bangkok for the LCR team launch and then the MotoGP season launch as we fully kick off the road to the Thai Grand Prix and the new MotoGP season. My thanks to Kiko and Elliot in Barcelona. My thanks to Jack for joining me here in Sepang as well. Alex Marquez tops the test with all 5 manufacturers on the pace. MotoGP is back big time.